Dr. Besigye is in deep coma, unresponsive even to painful stimulus. So when somebody is comatose, you can undertake a painful stimulus to see if at all he can respond. It's unresponsive. So that is the state in which Dr. Besigye is reported to be. And that is what we want to report to you. But these are very important observations to make. Why did the prison service take Dr. Besigye to the military hospital? Why is the prison service so unfriendly to the relatives, friends, and workmates, colleagues of Dr. Besigye to deny access to him, even to know his condition? Why? Why should the Uganda Prison Service employ military officers and give them military uniforms of Uganda Prison Service? Yesterday, while in court, we witnessed the state's wrath to humanity and the state's wrath to Dr. Kizza Besigye. For those doubting Thomases, who we have been telling that the state would want to have Dr. Besigye killed, yesterday was a very good example. Yesterday, Dr. Besigye protested while the judge, Emmanuel Baguma Pirato, insisted to ignore the Constitution, insisted to ignore the rules of procedure in the court, call them civil procedure rules, and he proceeded to listen to a fugitive called Orlando, who came to give his so-called evidence against Dr. Besigye. All of you who were there, who could have witnessed, this is what exactly happened. Dr. Besigye, while he protested, he was handcuffed by the prison officer. He continued to protest. Then they arm-twisted him and put his hands behind him. And he cried out, "You guys, you are hurting me. You are hurting me." In that process, we did not see exactly what was happening because they were in the dock. He continued to protest. After a while, Dr. Besigye collapsed. A very short while, he collapsed. That collapse was preceded by a cry out, "You are hurting me, you are hurting me." How were they hurting him? Could somebody have administered something, because that cry preceded shortly his collapse? Yes, you can think about a faint. Somebody can faint. But while he collapsed, I and Dr. Kamara, a renowned physician, and Dr. Oli Kousi, our teacher in the School of Medicine, we were 3 medical doctors who could have assisted the prison officers in taking charge to resuscitate somebody who has collapsed. That was Dr. Besigye. They denied us access to now a person who was a patient before us. We protested and we wanted to approach. They denied us access to our leader. And it took them about 15 minutes to drag him outside the door and take him to a room down. It took them about an hour in order to bring an ambulance. And the ambulance they brought, it was just having a driver and no medical personnel inside. It took them another 25 minutes to bring in another ambulance with the driver and the nurse. That is the ambulance that drove him out. What was remarkable and which we want to highlight here, it looks like Kizza Besigye, who happens to be in charge of Uganda Prison Services, no longer has prison officers. He also has military men in prison officers' uniform. And I think the military has taken over the prisons as well. They denied us access to a man who collapsed. A man who is our leader, a man who is a relative to some of us. Denied access. What were they doing with him while he was unconscious? We cannot know. Any sensible officer, especially for a person who is being declared an enemy of the state, according to President Museveni, you cannot remain in the hands of the people who hate you while you are unconscious and you think we shall not suspect anything, especially when we are medically trained. The prison officer, who was a lady with the 3 stars, I don't know her name. She organized the operation to take Dr. Besigye to wherever it was. Dr. Olive Besigye took off time and went to her and asked her for permission to see her brother. And you know what she said? She told Dr. Olive Besigye, you will find us in Luziga, that is where we are taking him. So we assumed that they were taking him to Maximum Bay. And it would be okay with us if at all he was taken to Maximum Bay, because we would know that it is the prison service that is undertaking his Medicare. They instead took him to Mbuya Military Hospital. Why did that prison officer deny us information? Why did she have to hide the identity of the hospital where they were taking Dr. Besigye? And it was after that engagement in such a facility that was driven to the National Referral Hospital, Mulago, in the intensive care unit, ICU. They drove him at night. They did not even have a courtesy of telling the relatives, especially Dr. Olive Besigye, who was around. It was through our own intelligence that we discovered that he had been taken to the ICU in Mulago Hospital, and we don't even have access to him. What we gather is that Dr. Besigye is in deep coma, unresponsive even to painful stimulus. When somebody is comatose, you can undertake a painful stimulus to see if at all he can respond. It's unresponsive. So that is the state in which Dr. Besigye is reported to be. And that is what we want to report to you. But these are very important observations to make. Why did the prison service take Dr. Besigye to the military hospital? Why is the prison service so unfriendly to the relatives, friends, and workmates, colleagues of Dr. Besigye to deny access to him, even to know his condition? Why? Why should the Uganda Prison Service employ military officers and give them military uniforms of Uganda Prison Service? Because we can differentiate the behavior. The difference between the behavior of the military officers and officers who belong to the institution called the Uganda Prison Service. They behave very differently. Why would Uganda Prison Service officers have a lot of anger and be annoyed with us who wanted to see Dr. Besigye and offer medical care? Why would they be annoyed? They are mere custodians. They are usually friendly. And we who have been in that prison know the behavior of the Uganda prison servicemen, and we can differentiate the prison servicemen from the military officers. And we saw military officers in prison. And we want to interrogate this. Second observation yesterday was about the restriction that is being announced, administrative restrictions by the courts of law. We were here, you members of the Fourth Estate were here, when one man called Okello Onyum killed children in Uganda. President Museveni himself ordered that court be convened within the community for everybody to see and observe the proceedings. And it was done. How comes that Dr. Besigye and Obedi Lutare's case is being listened to in an opaque manner? They want darkness, to listen to it in darkness. No transparency at all. They are restricting the media because they know they were going to commit nefarious things which would anger the public. And they knew that we were not going to keep quiet. So we want the court of justice, especially the Chief Justice, who comes from Rukungiri, and the man we have written to as a consortium of leaders of political organizations that we want to engage, and he has not answered. How comes that the Chief Justice can be as silent as dead to that extent? Would Uzeja appear in Barrio when Dr. Besigye is pronounced dead? How can you be a Chief Justice and you don't call your forces to order while they are conducting injustice against the people for whom they must advocate? That is the second observation. Members of the fourth estate, our most important message today is to demand for the health of Dr. Besigye. We know very well that in the courts of law, there is no justice. Mr. Bakuma is already organizing his judgment. Maybe he has already organized a judgment, and these are just formalities. So we expect no justice from him. We would have expected the Chief Justice Zenja Flavian to come out and change the person presiding over this case in Bakuma, who has failed totally to convince even a kid that he can preside over a case and we get justice out of it. He's biased, he's commanded. I think he's a commander, he's a military officer. How can you walk away from court without even adjourning it? How can you refuse to listen to a man representing himself in court? How can you fail to make a response about constitutional matters that somebody representing himself raised, and you want to proceed because Orlando must go back home where he came from? A ticket, a state cannot afford a ticket for him to come back anytime. It's a very shameful thing for Justice Bakuma that after forcing Dr. Besigye to listen, which he he refused to do. Court had to stop even without an judgment. So we want to ask him, did the court proceed? Dr. Besigye said, you are not going to proceed with this nonsense. Did it proceed? Okay, he can laugh that he is sick and he can laugh if at all he died. But did he proceed? So is he going to adjudicate and pass a sentence against somebody who is bedridden or even dead if at all he wants? Where did jurisprudence go? It is one of the subjects in law. Where did it go? So Justice Besigye, the Chief Justice, needs to pull up his socks. If at all the judiciary is finally hijacked, even the office of the Chief Justice is hijacked by the military, let us know. Because we are aware that PLU is eating all the institutions of this country. Finally, let me talk about what exactly is happening in Uganda, because you members of the fourth estate need to know and explain to the country all these struggles we are facing. We are facing these struggles because of a struggle of one family which wants to rule us until their death. One man is ruling this country for 45 years. He wants to pass the baton to the son. The son is preparing the grandson of the first president in Sandhurst, so that he takes over the baton from the father. Then the grandson takes over the baton from the son. That hegemony is fighting to ensure that they continue to subdue the population of Uganda, the population they found here. That is their struggle. And when they see anybody who can be president, like Dr. Besigye, that one must be killed or lawfully. They will say he must be lawfully killed. So you go through the courts of law, Bakuma passes the conviction, and then you can hang him by the neck until he's dead. Then you say that the courts decided so. When they see the party leader like Elias Lukwago is emerging, they say that one is going to compete against the son. So he must be incarcerated. Or even allowed to be killed by his health conditions, by denying him the right to go for treatment abroad. When they see any kind of political threat to their future tenure of office of the presidency, they will continue to hunt everybody down. And now their aim is at PFF. They want to see everybody who comes out as a leader to be implicated in this or that, ends up in prison. They want you to be fugitive or even to go out of this country. Then they can get peace. With that notion, they are willing to indoctrinate the judiciary, which they have weaponized against the opposition. They have even annexed them. They have already annexed parliament. That is why you see the leadership of parliament, the speaker and deputy speaker, are already in the son's political party called PLU. The one that exists parasitically with any other aim. Eating it from within until they declare that they are the leaders now. That is why you see justices of high court, including ministers. The Minister of Internal Affairs subscribing to a young party, a young parasitic party. So that is what they are doing. So we are saying that if at all they are brave enough, if at all they have the courage, if at all they have the wit, if at all they have the knack Let them present themselves before Ugandans today and in the future if they want to be leaders of this country. But we want to tell them we shall compete with you and Ugandans will decide their fate. And we want to rally Ugandans against this notion of family rule. It is ruining every institution of government. How can you deny Elias Lukwago bail when he presented all his documents about his illness? He doesn't belong to the prison. He belongs to the hospital to see doctors, not to see prison warders. But as a country in which we live, simply because they want to do away with any possible competitors for political power. In essence, that is why we are being fought left, right, and center. But for how long shall we see Ugandans being incarcerated, Ugandans being tortured? How long? Shall we continue to see these kind of things happening? Ladies and gentlemen, you will ask, you people of PLU, somebody used to continue asking us, you people, what are you doing with your party? They are blacklisting everybody. I was telling them we are here to stay and we shall continue fighting on. You want to ask us, what next? We are going to tell you what we are going to do next in the next 10 days of preparation. We are preparing Uganda so that they can know this situation at hand. So we shall have a number of meetings and we shall tell the nation what we are going to do next.